Welcome back, friends. Thank you so much for being here with me. Today I'm doing a VR. This is a VR to Rochelle at Amethyst Ascension. I'm doing a reading that she recently featured called Wisdom from Within. I will link her video in the description box below, and I highly encourage you to watch that first because she goes through a few things such as the origin of the spread and the hashtag. So the hashtag for this reading is channeling the divine feminine, and as I understand it, the original idea behind this came from a channel by the name of Aries Witchcraft. So and also I encourage you to watch Rochelle's video because the reading that she received was just fantastic. So anyhow, I saw the questions that she asked. I saw the reading. I'll put a screenshot of it later on, of the questions, and I really thought this is something that I need to do. Now, usually I do some form of reading for myself where I ask questions related to my intuition and the divine feminine and, like inner wisdom type questions. I do that at least a couple of times a year. It's just really nice to check in, and it feels like a really comforting reading for me. So, I saw the questions and I thought, right, I'm going to do this. So now for my reading, I'm using a deck that might not seem like the best choice for some for this reading, but for me it really called to me. And since we're talking about listening to our inner intuition, that's what I went with. And the deck I have, it's a very well-known deck. That's right, the Mythic Tarot. This is the original edition by Juliet Sherman Burke and Liz Green. And I guess I'm the kind of reader that really likes pragmatic type decks. Okay, I think if I had a tarot deck that was more aligned with the divine feminine, like the Delphic tarot, I might have gone with that, but I don't have that deck, unfortunately, and it's long out of print, so here we are. Anyway, so the 5 questions that I'll be looking at are: first question, how well do I listen to my intuition? Second card, what happens when I ignore it? Third card, how does my inner wisdom communicate with me? Fourth card, what helps me hear my inner voice clearly? And fifth card, guidance from higher self. How can I trust you better? Okay, so I'm going to take a few moments like I normally do to connect with spirit and to shuffle, and then I will cut and we'll see what comes up. Some tea. You know me. Alrighty, so first card, how well do I listen to my intuition? Knight of Cups. I would say I follow it pretty well. and I listen to it pretty well. I love the fact that I'm getting a cups card here, because cups are very much related to intuition, even psychic ability, right? That's cups. It's emotions and feelings. It's that world of sensitivity and just in general the ability to tap into our intuitive side. And because it's a Knight, I kind of feel like, you know, I am led by my intuition, right? Or I'm guided by it very much, because it's like a card of the seeker and the search and the adventure, and basically following something. You know, you're in movement when you're in Knight. You're not really standing still. Certainly this Knight isn't. You know, and he's about to cross this water body, and water bodies are very much symbolic for intuitive, sensitive, psychic ability and processes. So that's the Knight of Cups. I've only just realized that I've got you see that? The sort of flickering, it's I'm by a window and I've got the outside trees and like the light coming through. I hope that's not too distracting, but anyway, let's keep going. Just never mind me, I'm just rambling off to myself. Okay, so second card, what happens when I ignore it? Okay. Ooh, the World. That's interesting. I kind of feel like, because the World is a card of completion, there's that element of closure or being contained within something, but also here there are like two heads. This is brilliant. There's two heads in the person, and you know, one's male and one's female, and I kind of feel like it's really talking about that split when you ignore your intuition. You know, like you're divided in a sense. Like, I know it's one body, and so therefore it's meant to portray the integration of the two within the one body, but at the same time, having two heads doesn't sound too good. I'm quite happy to have just one. So anyway, that's really interesting. What happens when I ignore my intuition? I kind of feel like there's a being closed off, and also being in two minds about things, you know, because you don't really know which way to go. You know, you've got, two minds, literally. Okay, so that's the second card. Third card, how does my inner wisdom communicate with me? Oh, geez. The Tower. Okay, now, this is the how. This is quite sudden and abrupt. And I get those like kind of sudden flashes of vision. And it comes from the source, for lack of a better word. Some of you would know that is God or the goddess or the Great Spirit. I'm just going to call it the source. I have had an experience in my life that was very much the Tower. I wouldn't call it the Enlightenment, because, as I always say, I mean, it's really hard to say with certainty whether you are enlightened. And certainly I have personal flaws that I'm working to address, like I'm a human being like anyone else. But anyway, how does my inner wisdom communicate with me? This is very much like inner sudden insights and breakthroughs. And that is, in a positive way, the Tower, right? And they're also quite earth-shattering, because the experience that I had was indeed like, you rocked my world and my view of the world completely and utterly, for better, ultimately. By the time, it was quite difficult and challenging, because I had never experienced something like that before, and also I wasn't really guided through it. I had no guide, I had no mentor, I had no one. That's a story for another time. But anyway, so with the how, I would say that my inner wisdom is quite sudden. It's like a bolt of lightning, and that lightning is a vision, and I do get that about our world and the direction that we're heading in. It's not something that I have done talks on or channeled or in any sense, because I just don't feel like that's something that I'm in the right space to do right now. I might do that in the future. But anyway, it's a really interesting card to have here, and the second major in a 5-card spread. Fourth card, what helps me hear my inner voice clearly? Strength. Wow. Holy. 3 majors. I get a major, and you get a major, and everybody gets a major. Oh, actually, I just get all the majors. So, now, let's pause and have a think about this. The Strength card is a card of a process happening in this image. It's someone in a cave, so the symbolism is really strong here. It's like the dark and the light is outside there, right? But I'm not outside, I am inside. This is very much an inner process. And that's very much been the case for me in terms of, to hear my inner voice clearly, I gotta be on my own, and I gotta grapple with certain issues or thoughts or parts of myself or feelings, fears, you name it. Now, these are always trumped by connection to source and having that ultimate knowing, because it's not a belief, it is a deep inner knowing about the magic of our earth, the benevolent and compassionate guiding light of the source that is omnipresent throughout the world. And I think that what helps me hear my inner voice clearly is really withdrawing from all the outside stimuli, being on my own and facing my own, not so much demons, or it can be part of that, but just everything that lurks inside of me. Sometimes it can be, hidden and buried in depth. So that's really, really true. And also, can I say that, the lion as an animal does stand for intuition, but also instinct, which to me is different from intuition. Instinct is far more primal. I don't think that instinct is connected to the divine or to the source. I think intuition is connected to the divine and to the source, but not instinct. So anyway, fascinating reading. This is why you're doing a reading on wisdom from within and about listening to your intuition. So you've got to go with the deck that calls for you, not with a deck that you think would fit the theme. This is really, really important. And for some of you, for many of you, the deck would fit the theme. Like Rochelle's deck, I think, was absolutely spot on, the one that she used. And it really, it was just a really apt deck for talking about the divine feminine and intuition. At least I got that feeling from it. I don't have that particular deck. For some of you, that would be the case. But for others, like me, that wasn't. I really wanted, like I almost went with Rider-Waite-Smith, but it just wasn't quite right, And so I went with the first edition of the Mythic. I've got the later one too, but this one just, I don't know. That was my intuition guiding me to choose this deck. Fifth card, final card, guidance from higher self. How can I trust you better? Oop. Page of Swords. This is interesting. It's not a Cups card. I don't know why I thought that would be the case. It's Swords, so we're dealing with the mind and we're dealing with, I suppose, the intellect and reasoning. How can I trust you better? And you know what the first thing that comes to my mind when I see this image is? Is doing something like breath work. I mean, it's right there in the card, for goodness sake, right? This person is breathing out, or maybe they're breathing in, you know, the clouds, they're like up in the clouds. The whole image is about the mind and breath work and meditation, those kinds of things. That's what really stands out to me. And also, I think the Page of Swords talks about not having too many preconceived ideas of how things should be. You know, the pages are a very innocent energy, right? They're right at the beginning of their journey. They're very trusting. They're very inquisitive. Pages, all pages are. But the swords, we're talking about mind, and to me, that's like breath work. That's what really comes up to me. It's very simple. In fact, it's nothing too complex in the answer that I'm getting here. So anyhow, yeah, these are my 5 cards that I received, and the card underneath is the Hermit. I don't know if you can see that. The lighting's not the best, and I haven't used my light, which is probably, I should have reconsidered that, but anyway, too late now. Yeah, the card, like the energy underneath is like the Hermit, you know, that solitude, that introspection, that being on your own and having the wisdom, the acquired wisdom through experience, life experience, to guide others with the light. Very nice. But that's not the cards on the top. Okay, so it's kind of like an underlying or underneath energy beneath all of these cards here. So yeah, a really nice and simple, not simple, but you know, it's not too elaborate, and I like spreads that are not too elaborate. When you get to 10-12 cards, for me, I kind of feel like they get a bit too much, and I feel like this is just enough to you know, get the message across and to give me some guidance and advice on working with my intuition and moving forwards and listening to my inner wisdom. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I hope others try the spread. I would love to see some, particularly some other decks working with the spread. I think that would be really fascinating. But anyhow, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, take care.